So, what we are going to do today, obviously the Sinfonias. We're going to practice together Symphonia number 8, make some fingerings, do some first sight reading, practice that, and then I want to continue actually with what we were doing last session. It was much playing, not too much talking, and I actually like that. I must say also that when I do too much talking, it's in English, so it's not my mother tongue, and I need sometimes to translate in my head what I want to say. Some things are really difficult to explain. Some elements even are difficult to explain to myself. So it's just a matter of feeling, and it's also a matter of fine-tuning. And I will, of course, give some comments to myself, which hopefully you can benefit from. I will read, of course, the chat, try to answer it if there are questions. But what was fun last time, what was actually very nice, is that by just playing and commenting in small words or small sentences, that I didn't lose the focus of my practicing. And I think that's interesting for you as well, just to watch and see me practice as if you wouldn't be here. And as much as I like this interactive activity as this live stream gives, and we will certainly keep that, don't be afraid, because I will read the comments and I will comment on myself. Just practicing somewhat more is maybe interesting for you as well. We see how it goes, and leave me a comment in the comment boxes here on the video when it is uploaded on YouTube. So I will listen to you, of course. Agnes on the chat is keeping you busy, I see, and she's doing actually great. Last chat was actually fun to read for myself as well. Before we start with the Sinfonias, now just a quick question that I received from Ottavio, and he asked something that actually was a very good question, and I want to share that with you. He asked that he would like to know how I practice my hand independence for contrapuntal pieces like these, so the Sinfonias. I learned the first of Bach's inventions with hands separated, and joining them as well. It's very scary. Could you give some insight on this part of the process? And he asks also if I still need to practice that. So that's a great question actually, and the answer is yes, of course I need to practice that. Combining two hands doing something really different is very, very difficult. So you will not find many people who can sight read complicated fugues, because left hand, if I'm right, is being so the motoric feeling, everything that our left side is doing is being controlled by the right part in our brain, and vice versa for the other for the right hand is controlled by the left part. So whenever you have your right hand practice and then your left hand practice, and you have to combine that, it's really, you can imagine if you would take that amount of information that should be combined real time to a computer, that almost, I don't think a computer will be capable of doing that. So there is friction, of course, between left and right when there is full independence. It's different from Mozart, and of course there you have also passages that are demanding the same capacities, but when the left hand is more in support of the right hand or vice versa, this collaboration in our brain is much, much easier. So that's the same for me. So don't think, if you would think that professional players or whatever you might call us are just on the level that it's not necessary anymore to practice both hands together. That's really difficult. Making good fingerings is what helps you. And for instance, for the partitas, that is really complicated music. Maybe in 30 years, if I'm still healthy, I will be able to play them forever. But now, if we're about to record them again, I have to practice them again. So that feeling between left and right is also a feeling that's getting lost. So, hope that answers a little bit your question. So we start with the Adrian, welcome here. We start with the 8th Sinfonia. Again, I will shift to my second studio here by one mouse click, and I will put this webcam a little bit closer so you can see the fingerings. I hope the focus is okay. Like this. So nothing to hide anymore. These Sinfonias are really difficult. I've said it many times, but to me it's surprising as well. I've never played them before, and the number of exceptions that are really worked in, technical exceptions in the Sinfonias is really remarkable. Okay, there we go. I just play 2 or 3 staves, and then we see how we continue very slowly. Okay, so the key is of course not so difficult to play, but let's start with the right hand, and I've made some divisions already, but further it's here below. So it's the first 3 staves can be played, of the first 3 systems I should say, can be played upper stave right hand, lower stave left hand, which is very convenient of course. First difficulty is with the trill. So if I start with the 3, so keep the hand position just for the first figure, then the trill comes fine, but then the A. You would say that the B flat, if it weren't for the trill, but now you have the trill, 3-2, I would take the trill with 4-3. First it's difficult, 4-3 is not a very good combination, certainly not with the C and the B flat. And it's a fast trill. Then I would be able to continue with my second finger on the A. Now that I have 3-2 on the B flat to the second finger, I actually kind of have to jump. Not to jump, but to make a little articulation there. So I start with 3. So I can sometimes really try this out for 10 minutes, what works the best. Put the camera a little bit further, more in focus. Because that determines much, because if I would start with 4, that feels very awkward. If I would be totally honest with you, I really don't like that drill. And starting with the main note, yeah, and yeah, what shall we do about this? So that's not a minor problem actually, that's very key, because everything we decide to do now will be reflected in the whole piece. If I would not play a trill, what would I do then? I think I would go from 3 here to another 3. Because that's a natural accent. Again, we don't change fingers on one single note when it's sounding. This has to be fixed. I remember the ornaments in the Sinfonias and Inventions, they are really complicated because you have several versions and we don't know actually very sure what Bach was writing himself. And what we can learn from that actually is that these trills are added or omitted, so people played their own ornaments. And there's a manuscript that I think it's the latest, that might be a reflection of how Bach played it, but we don't know. And anyway, if I would leave out a trill, today of course I probably would have to explain which source gives me permission to do that. I'm exaggerating a little bit. My friend Miklos Pani, many of you will know him, he calls that the Baroque police, will come after you if you do such things. But I don't mind too much, but it was done in the 18th century. Both are possible. It's more gentle, like this. Let's make the trill. Let's try not to be in jail. Baroque police jail. It just feels, I'm really doubting again. But let's keep it. Second finger on the 8, so a little articulation. Ta-da. First finger here, which is 4, 5, B flat, 3, 4. So I just play my hand out, and then I have to change the position. So the natural position of my first finger is now on the G. Very important in historical fingerings. This is not an historical fingering because it's mine, but what I want to say, what you read in historical sources, is keeping your hand position as long as you can. But I have to shift because I actually don't have to shift. So second finger on A, third finger on B flat, but then I have to use my thumb, go under my third finger, and for the theme entrance in the highest voice, and that's really far away because this should continue like if there is nothing in the right hand that has a difficulty. And it's better when I have first finger, so repositioning of the hand on the A, and then I only have to go with my first finger under my second finger, not my third finger. And then I go with 4 here, so this is the new position of the hand. First on the C, fourth on the F, and then the hand is positioned perfectly to play the rest. There you have that trill again, and either I play it with 4-3. But I really, on a harpsichord I would take the risk, but on a clavichord, because on a harpsichord you can have more pressure in the key to make the more speed in the key. It's difficult to explain how, but the trill will work with 4-3 easily. But on clavichord, every touch has to be perfect. With 4-3 it's difficult, certainly on this clavichord. Depends also on the distance between the tangent and the string, which is quite long here. So the longer it is, the more difficult. So I want to have the trill with 3-2. So again, a little bit of shift in my hand position. So instead of having this natural position, see if you can see it, I have to shift a little bit. It might sound as if it's really small things that I'm talking about, but actually it's important. Because this adds up during the whole piece, and this is maybe not the most difficult Sinfonia, but if the pieces get more and more complex, every minor detail is important. Because we strive for automation at the end. That's a whole new chapter to talk about automation. It's really important. So I'm here at the second finger. So first finger on the C, second finger on the F, which is, my hand position is like, see if you can see it like that, which is not the normal position I would like to have, but it's like it is. It's also the compromise of playing two voices in one hand. And then I go over with this third finger. So I don't try to shift my fingers here to reposition the hand. I just reposition the hand by repositioning it naturally. And again, this comes good because now we have the same articulation as we had in the beginning, which is what we wanted, because there we start. And it's only by fingering only. So I don't have to think about that anymore. It happens. It would be even hard to avoid. So fingering a polyphonic music, that's something I can say, is really important, because you decide, as we do now, the kind of philosophy of how you're going to play that, and then you make the whole fingering in the most natural way possible, but in a way that it reflects the interpretation, also the articulation and accentuation and everything. And the more the fingering does, the easier it is to play this music in a way that it's really understandable for the audience, because it becomes understandable because of the similarities you do in the same in the themes. I hope I phrased that well. So, articulation, and then 3-1. It's quite normal. And then I have to shift from 3 on E to 5 on F, which I don't like to do, but again, it's two voice. Then I'm quite sure that Bach used the same fingering. And maybe even, no, I'm just joking, but sometimes you have the feeling that, and probably Bach did as well, that it's composed at the keyboard. Like a passage like this. I know Immanuel Bach wrote that Bach didn't compose at the keyboard, but I doubt if he tells the truth. He actually says that Bach improvised at the keyboard and then composed a piece, but okay, why wouldn't he? And this is kind of passage with with all composers you feel handle really, that sometimes it feels just so normal at the keyboard, as if it is composed at the keyboard. Not important. Second finger on the B. So we go up, we keep the same position of the hand. Second finger again, then comes the third finger on the E. Oh, I have one finger short, because if I want to keep the third finger on the E, I really don't like that. So E on the third finger and, no, third finger on the E and second finger on the C. That's a gap in between, that feels not right. A solution for that would be just shift from B1, so first finger thumb on the B to the C, which is possible. I do it. So the release of those notes should be very good. So very gentle. Practice that. It's really nice to practice. And you have to use it all the time, also with the fifth finger. And try to release the notes as slow as you can to make it more legato. not glissando. That's a really great exercise actually. If you haven't done that, try it, because it seems easy, but it's not easy. And because what you will have to do is just make sure that all the releases are okay. So you have to take your arm rate out of the key, go to the next, leave it down, go up, and then of course by going faster, do the same thing but faster. So try it, and that's the same technique as you use here. So this D, thank you for that. We can shift our position. We go just to 5 on the A. I can write it down, but it's actually obvious. Then I go to 3. I will not go to 4. Having my first finger on a note and then the fourth finger next to it, it would make sense, because then I would free my first and second finger for the A and the B. And the jump is too big. I just take a little bit of tension for granted, because I go here to the 5 on the D. Of course, this is played with the second finger on the G, and then I go with the same fifth finger to the C. Again, there you have the release. And if Bach wants to have a trill, whoever, I play it here as well, there, like that. Okay. So, left hand is of course much less complicated, because you have only one voice. But also here, obviously you start with the fifth finger, you go to the first finger. Don't spread your hand for that. You may if you want, but I think in the 18th century they did not do that soon, because this closed hand position was important. It's also necessary on the clavichord. So just move your hand. You can spread a little bit. So you come on the first finger here. On third finger, that may be better. You can jump with first finger from F to A. So that's not complicated. I would really make sure to start with the second finger. So make the jump. I sometimes see people trying to connect all of that. It's not necessary. Even ending by the second finger is no problem, because you need that. And again, practice releases, because it's not meant to be played like very fast going to the upper note. No, take a breath. I would take that with, and then go to my fourth finger. So the theme feels a little bit more awkward in the left hand. But by doing that, I move my hand and I have the same articulation. So again, here you have a passage that is not difficult to play, but there are many possibilities. I could go to the first finger on the A, just play my hand out until the fifth finger on the D, which is And again, I can, if I practice a piece like that, I will be sitting here really for 15 minutes to decide where I do this. Or the other version. So, and by playing then later, So that's not so complicated. So by playing it later, I will start making changes, but I will write it. So let's try how that feels together actually. Oops. Okay, and then it's a little bit more complicated here because in the right hand you go up like this, and in the left hand you have this special figure. So it's a different. That's what we were talking about at the beginning. So. Second finger, and then together. But also here at the beginning of the second, of the first bar of the second system, if you just don't spread your hand and move your entire hand this passage, you never have to practice because it's you cannot play it differently, but like this. So you hear every fragment, every theme entrance of every motif, so to say. Okay. Yeah, there's a lot to be said on the fingerings, really, and it's really interesting. I hate making fingerings. I have said that before, but because it's so time-consuming, and you all know the feeling that you just go and play. But with Bach, but let's say with all music actually that I would play on concert, I have to make good fingerings, and once you've made them, you play the piece for your whole life. You never forget it. Okay, but I think it was enough on fingering for tonight. I will finish number 8, Symphonia number 8, for next week. And then we have a look at number 9, which is a really beautiful piece. And maybe we see how we do it. And so we continue, because we have to reach number 15. Okay, and now we're going to play. Just read if I missed something. So Charles Wright, I think the critical comments in the Handley Urtext mentions a trill in bar 6 that I don't see in the Bach Gesellschaft edition. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, it's the one I added, I think, or not. So, yeah, I have to check that. Handel is actually a good edition. And at the end, we should take our freedom to make our own ornaments, and actually many performers do. Okay, let's try the 6th one if you agree with that. Yeah, I'm struggling with the material, I can tell you that. And certainly when you just made fingerings, that's something you're reading your own fingerings, so you're reading the notes and the fingerings, so you have to play very slow. And we've talked about it, I think, in session number 1, 2, or 3. When you play very slow and you have the discipline. And don't think I have always a discipline, but if you really stand up in the morning and feel great, have a good cup of coffee, sit there at your keyboard and just be very brave and good and play very slowly, slower than your brain actually needs to think, then you will be surprised how fast you can play a piece. The first impressions that we make here is so important. But again, that's the ideal situation. Let's try the 6th Sinfonia, and again, it's been a while for me since I played this piece. Actually never practiced it. I don't remember if we practiced it last time. Let's see. So I start a little bit slower than I perhaps think that the piece should be played in. Sometimes it's strange when you just say I'm playing a little bit slower, you leave everything, you wipe the table clean, so to say. And what I mean by that is you don't act or you don't play as a performer, you just listen as if you are listening to yourself. And sometimes it happens like now that you see or feel that actually it's almost there. This kind of atmosphere, it's breakable. I don't know if that's good English. And then the difficult thing is to grab it and to really bring it there where it belongs. It's difficult to explain. It's this kind of abstract feeling. So it has a lot to do with character and color. Actually, it's kind of green color I see. It's very strange sometimes, and maybe it doesn't make any sense, but to keep that, and when you want to hold it, it's over. It doesn't work. It needs to come, and it will not come by itself, and that's a contradiction and terminus, and that's hard to explain. It has to do also with articulation, and what's very important, I was thinking that I will play on the concert on Friday. It's in a very beautiful room in Leuven, and I will make a recording for the 20th of November. I hope I can manage that, because I don't know the room. I've never been there, only seen it from photographs. But the 21st of November, my teacher, Jacques van Ootmesse, will be he passed away 1 year, 21 November last year, so I will make an in memoriam recording for him with Mozart's 25th Symphony, transcribed for solo keyboard, only the first movement. And of course that's difficult, because that piece is, all these transcriptions it's not empty compared to the orchestral version, but you know what I mean. But you can only get a good result while making sound, while making your instrument sound beautiful. And that's the same for the Sinfonias. Once you make a beautiful sound, that's my experience, things happen. So let's try to make a beautiful sound again. It's difficult here in the left hand. It's like almost a double bass that should give this pulse. Very strange piece. Also here in the alto voice, the second voice, so beautiful but difficult to reach the A in a cantabile way. Because you have to take over, and the right hand is coming from above. That's not okay. That's very difficult jump here. And the rhythm doesn't accept that you just hold back a little bit. So the jump has to be right on. Very gentle. You know, the release of the A is key to everything. It's with fifth finger. Just holding a little bit longer the A. And went a little bit faster. I think that was rather okay, actually. So, I hope you don't ask me now what the difference was. Maybe less than 1%. I really don't know, and it's really true, I don't know. So if I wake up tomorrow and I play this again, it will be different. I really have to start all over again, searching for that. And the longer I practice these pieces, the better, and the sooner and the faster I get to that point that I want. but this light touch, without playing it like the French would say léger. It's not léger, it's what is that? Ja ya 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 da da. You have this ja da di da. You feel the 8 notes. It's 9/8. It's not. These are not triplets. So 9/8 is really not so fast as a 3/4 bar structure would be with triplets. So you have to feel the heaviness of the 8 note, but of course it has a little bit of dance movement, lightness, and also the structure. If you just look at the notation, it's obvious. It's very open with these long lines. Shift in, I've actually shift in meter almost. Accent, accent. It's beautiful here. You almost gets to a point where you have accents every 6/8 notes, and then this is opening that again to the 9/8. It's beautiful. Okay, that's not good in the left hand. It's too metrical, too I don't, not cantabile enough. Oh, difficult. By difficult, I don't mean the notes on itself, but the jumps here make it difficult to keep that léger, not léger, that movement. Because it's, you could say it's not well written for the left hand. Of course, I don't say that because it's Bach. Okay. Difficult. Really, let's see if I've missed something in the chat. The slow tempi are great on the Polyphonic, which has the sustain to make it. Yeah, and by the way, I know this music is played much faster often, but I really, let me rephrase this or say this in a different way. One of the elements that has been researched by musicians really almost never is the tempo notation relationship, and it surprises me because it's not easy and it's easy at the same time, and the result is that music is played very fast often. People just, and how would I say that in a way that's really nuanced? You hear often that notation is just a tool, but that at the end you have to feel the tempo, and Emanuel Bach actually writes something like that, and Leopold Mozart also, that you have to, a good musician knows what tempo he should take and what's the limit of the speed actually, but it has to do with notation. It has to do with notation because, as Emanuel writes also, Emanuel Bach and Leopold Mozart exactly in the same way, and perhaps others as well too, I cannot remember by memory now, that the basic of notation is a tempo ordinario, which has a connotation to real tempo. So here you have 8-note structures, which is in a 9/8, as I explained, not to be played as triplets in a 3/4 bar structure. So that limits the tempo itself. And the tempo it has an enormous influence on the character, because if I would play it a little bit faster, different character. And it's easier to play faster. For myself, if I don't get it right, and my solution is at the end of the day, just try it a little bit faster. I call that for myself the cheap solution, because it's easier. Things are easier, but it gets a little bit flattened, and also, not to say that you cannot play fast if you want to. Okay. I was reading Anja's comment, but I think okay, the invention and Sinfonias are about cantabile playing. Yeah, that's really true, and it's actually in the title page what Charles says. And interesting here, just to, it's 10:20, to close the session, cantabile is actually often in historical sources related to clavichords. So it is real clavichord music, I think. Yeah, if it goes too quickly, yeah, it depends. You know, if Glenn Gould plays really fast, you know, I made a session on if I like Bach on the piano, and Glenn Gould, I mean, his latest Goldberg variations, it's 1981, I think, is sometimes so fast, but you can understand everything. So he's not worried too much about the notation, although in the end of his life he was saying some things that really surprised me when I heard it. But when he plays, you can understand everything. It's like he takes a listener with his hand and just guide him or her through the jungle of the music of Bach. So not everything. You cannot say if it plays too fast, by definition it's less understandable. But I know what you're saying. That when you play over tempo and play too fast, or play in a tempo that doesn't reflect the character, or play in a tempo of which you can feel that the musician is disconnected with the correct character, then it's for me also hard to understand. And for me personal, I look for a tempo within the notation what I think that can be framed or fitted within the notation, what I think it should be. I cannot prove that, of course, but I have to understand every note before I play it on a concert or record it. Really, also on YouTube will be no recording where I do not understand every note. It does not always I mean, I'm not succeeding always in the result. That's another thing, because if you play the whole piece, it should work as a whole as well, and that's something related to focus and concentration and experience, and how long you play the pieces if you really master it. But yeah, you know what I mean. And you know, just really to end, because you're writing on tempi, no, the live stream is on. He's telling me that the live stream would be off. But I have green light from YouTube. So just to close the session, when we in the conservatory, you know that the piano class, Bach is really treated as etudes, polyphonic etudes, so tempo is important then. Okay. Next week we continue to that. Let me know if you want to change something, of me interfere with you a little bit more, or just play as we did today. I thank you all for being here, and hope you could take some elements with you on your journey in Bach playing or Bach listening or whatever your occupation with Bach is. So see you next week, and this week, okay, we have some videos. Doubts and Decisions are coming up, and I will make a book review on Walter, Musikalische Lexikon, and I have to record a Q&A for Wednesday. Okay, see you all next week, and thank you for attending this session. It was great to have you here. Good evening. Bye.